A non-Blizzard video, it's a miracle. Let's talk about EA. So we all know that this is a company that continues to tout that single-player games are dead, that it's all about live services and recurrent monetization. That's the ideal future that EA wants, but time and again, single-player games have proven that they are 100% still relevant, that they are more in high demand than ever, frankly, given all of these live services and AAA games that have released in a half-baked state. People crave for titles like God of War and, more recently, games like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which ironically was published by EA, the folks who don't want single-player games to be a thing anymore because they're not recurrently monetizable. So that brings us to today's news. The latest stats on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order look pretty damn good. The following information was relayed by news outlet GamesIndustry.biz. The headline tells you exactly what you need to know. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has sold around 8 million units. Here's how the article reads. Though EA and publishers like it may be leaning into more games with ongoing content and live services, the company now has a shining example on its hands of the power of single player in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. During its Q3 earnings call with investors following the company's quarterly financial results, the publisher announced that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has sold beyond our projections for the quarter, and later reiterated the results by saying it hit the high end of its expected sales, and apparently the expected sales were between 6 and 8 million. Them saying that it hit the high end probably means the game sold roughly 8 million units, which is pretty damn impressive given the game hasn't been out that long. And then CFO and COO Blake Jorgensen added that they expect that Jedi Fallen Order will sell around 10 million units, will reach and surpass that milestone by Q4, which ends in March of this year. In other words, Jedi Fallen Order is tracking to become one of EA's most successful games. EA previously talked about how this game broke digital sales records and the like. This game's performing super well. Why? Not only because it leverages the Star Wars IP, which is huge, but also because the game itself is good. Word has been spreading about how worthwhile this game is to get, and it is just a game, not a live service, not a casino disguised as a game. It is just a proper Star Wars game, and we haven't had one of those in so long that people really missed an experience like this. And now people are all over this. They cannot wait for a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, which has already been, I believe, confirmed. But if it hasn't, I mean, it's going to happen. Okay, look at the sales. There's no way EA is going to miss out on another opportunity. And, you know, with this, they also gained some good reputation and the like. Now, just to compare with Star Wars Battlefront 2, a game that launched in a similar time period during the year that it launched. That was a game that launched back in November 17th, 2017. And in that year's EA Q3 earnings call, it was stated that Star Wars Battlefront 2 disappointed in sales with over 7 million copies sold. So it sold seemingly roughly 1 million less than Jedi Fallen Order did. Jedi Fallen Order actually managed to sell faster than Battlefront 2 did, and it didn't face the kind of backlash that Battlefront 2 garnered. It didn't tarnish EA's reputation in any way. On the contrary, people are encouraging EA to publish more games like this, to give developers freedom like they've given to renowned developer Respawn, who not only released the highly successful Apex Legends, but also made amazing games like Titanfall and now Jedi Fallen Order. The fact that Jedi Fallen Order managed to be this successful, and within this time period even more so than Battlefront 2, goes to show the power of single player and that it is not dead, that it is not irrelevant, that live service isn't necessarily the only feature for games. Both multiplayer games and live services can coexist with single player. It doesn't have to be one or the other. There's a market for both. I want to call out once again what EA CFO Blake Jorgensen said back in November 2019 when discussing the alleged decline of the popularity of single-player titles. Nobody bought it back then. Nobody's buying it now because, again, plenty of single-player games are proving otherwise, selling incredibly well. So back then, Blake Jorgensen said, "We were trying to build a game that really pushed gameplay to the next level, and as we kept reviewing the game, it continued to look like a style of gaming, a much more linear game that people don't like as much today as they did 5 years ago or 10 years ago." And during this conversation, he was referring to the shutting down of Visceral and Project Ragtag, spearheaded by Amy Hennig, which looked amazing, but EA decided this is not going to make us money, so let's just cut it. I don't know, given Jedi Fallen Order sales, maybe if they would have given this game a chance, it would have sold pretty damn well, made its money back, and it could have been something really special. It certainly sounded like Project Ragtag was something special based on the reporting that news outlet Kotaku did on the behind-the-scenes goings-ons of this game. And this isn't just a recent narrative. This isn't something that EA just said 2 years ago. This is something that EA has been saying over the past decade. So this right here is an article from back in December 10th, 2010. And even back then, EA was declaring single-player games as finished. Here's a quote from EA Games chief Frank Gibeau from back then, and he said, "They are very comfortable moving the discussion towards how we make connected gameplay, be it cooperative or multiplayer or online services, as opposed to fire and forget, package goods only, single player, 25 hours, and you're out. I think that model is finished." Fuck off. Fast forward to today, EA is obviously eating its own words, seeing just how successful Jedi Fallen Order was, both from a critical and commercial standpoint. I think we can kill this narrative pretty handily right about now. I actually want to hear EA come out and say, you know what, we were wrong when we said those things. I don't think they will, because ultimately they want to push this propaganda of live services being the future so they can justify possibly making all of their games live service, recurrently monetized, adding microtransactions even in single player focused games. They want to justify that by spreading this false narrative of dying single-player games. So they're never going to admit they're wrong, but they should. Now, the other side to this story is that in this Q3 earnings call, EA did report that they made almost $1 billion from microtransactions in the last quarter alone. As reported by news outlet GameSpot, quote, EA made $993 million from live services during the quarter that ended in December 31st. For the trailing 12 months, so over the last year, EA made $2.835 billion from microtransactions, and all of that is highlighted in this chart right here. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, EA will never ultimately change their ways. That's why FIFA, their golden geese, will continue to be infested with loot boxes so long as they remain unregulated by government bodies and the like. This is why ultimately, even though EA might occasionally release your Jedi Fallen Order, your occasional single-player game, they're going to put more effort and focus on these recurrently monetized titles, especially their sports franchises, which make them heaps of money. This is why EA will never admit that single-player games are far from dead. What we can hope for is that loot boxes will eventually become both a financial and legal liability because of government regulation or some kind of oversight, and that will actually encourage EA to have to sell games based off of, just being a good product rather than trying to trick players or gouge players, manipulate players psychologically. But, I get the sense that even if loot boxes are regulated, they're going to find some other form of microtransaction. But just any way to mitigate the worst forms of microtransactions so the quality of games can be improved and so that people aren't psychologically preyed upon is a step in the right direction. And the hope is that with the success of Jedi Fallen Order, EA will realize that there is still a market for single-player games and that they'll publish more games like this, much more than they're doing now, that this won't be just a one-off thing every couple of years, that every year or something strive for one high-profile single-player game where they give developers freedom, don't mandate monetization. With games like Dragon Age 4 that are up and coming, if they enforce microtransactions in that, if they make that into a live service, I'm going to be super worried. But what the future holds, only time will tell. For now, I'm just happy to see that Respawn is doing so well, just in terms of the kinds of games they're outputting, especially after the underrated Titanfall 2, which didn't sell very well because EA released that in a less than ideal time slot. I'm glad to see that they're seeing so much success with Apex Legends and Jedi Fallen Order, because they're one of few EA developers that I can think of who are just making great games and seem to have enough influence within EA to be able to stave off any mandates and actually do what they want to do, and the results speak for themselves. EA, this is what can happen when you leave developers alone and just let games be games. Anyway, there you have it, folks. EA once again proving EA wrong. EA once again destroying their own claims and arguments in the past about single-player games dying. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on this latest development, on these latest statistic in regards to Jedi Fallen Order, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.